What we're wanting you to sort of come to an awareness of today in the time that we are together is, how much grief am I willing to endure for the sake of expansion? And if we were standing in your physical shoes, we would say none. Because you don't have to separate yourself from who you really are and what you want so long that you deprive yourself of the energy of alignment for so long that you are in grief or fear or despair. That's way, way, way overkill for what you intended when you decided to come forth and be a creator in this physical body. Are you understanding what we're getting at? Some of you have been listening to us for a while, and we want to say to you that we think that you have done enough poking around in the contrast of your life experience to keep yourself happily busy in the manifestation for 20 or 30 lifetimes. We really do not think that you really owe anything to anybody and that you need to torture yourself into expansion. But we also want to say to you that we are not ready to state, nor will we ever be ready to state, that negative emotion is a bad thing, because it isn't. Negative emotion is your guidance system that lets you know that you are in this moment deviating from what? Deviating from the source? Yeah. Deviating from what you want? Yeah. Deviating from the solution while you cling to the problem? Yes. Deviating from the answer while you ramp up the question more? Yes. But the true deviation that we want you to be aware of is deviating from the expanded version of you. It's like life has caused you to vibrationally move forward into this vortex, and we'll talk more about what this vortex thing is, into this vortex. But you, for reasons of your own, and usually only intimately known by you, for reasons of your own, you are choosing to hold yourself back from the expanded version of you. And we want to proclaim in a way that you will always remember that every negative emotion that you feel, no matter how great or slight it seems in the moment that you are feeling it, every negative emotion means the same thing. You expanded, but you in your physical body aren't going with the expansion, not right now anyway. And the reason you're not going is usually because you'd rather be right than feel good. Because you've been sifting through all of the details of life, you've come to the conclusions of what you think's appropriate, and so you're standing in defiance of who you are as you proclaim the rightness of your malice against this unwanted stuff. And we want to say, and we think this is a good time to say it, you live in a universe that is attraction-based, which means there is no such thing as exclusion, which means when you shout no at it, it thinks you're saying yes. When you shout no, go away from me, unwanted person, unwanted experience, unwanted thought, unwanted whatever it is, get away from me. What you're actually vibrationally saying is, come to me by the attention that I'm giving to you. Because there is no word that proclaims come and go. There's only attention which always proclaims come. So if you say, I don't want that, you have to know that there is something that you do want that's formulating. And this art of allowing gathering that we are participating in together today is about coming to that discernment early on and turning your attention to what is wanted rather than pushing against what is not wanted. So, for example, let's say that you don't have enough money, your bills are piling up, you're really feeling worried, which is your emotional indicator that you're focused differently than the source within you is focused. But let's say, and it is perfectly logical, you're experiencing a financial shortage and you are worried. So that's how you're standing in your physical body. Well, every time you focus upon this shortage, this problem of shortage, you are creating an equivalent solution. And your inner being is holding steady to the vibration of the solution. If we were talking about physical well-being, when your physical body is sick, you create a vibrational wellness that is more than was there before you got sick. In the same way that when you are experiencing exaggerated shortage, you're creating a vibrational equivalent of abundance that is more than it was before you experienced your shortage. So the problem actually, which as it came into focus, actually caused you to bring into focus an equivalent solution to which you do not have access while you are still worried. Your worry, in fact, is your emotional indicator that lets you know you are doing the problem part of the equation while the source within you is doing the solution part of the equation, but you, in your physical form, cannot have access to the solution as long as the problem is what is most active in your vibration. So many people say, well, then show me the money. Inner being, smarty pants that you are, standing over there with all of my abundance, fork it over. Give me the abundance, and when I see it, I will feel better. And we say, of course you would feel better if you could see the solution to your problem, but you have to find the solution to your problem vibrationally before it can manifest. You have to withdraw your attention from the problem before the solution can come into view. So you have something to think about all day, every day. Esther has really been pondering this recently. How much attention to the problem does this particular creative experience deserve? Because there is a tipping point. In other words, of course, poking around on the problem, living life, you came to do that. You came to expand the universe by knowing what you don't want and knowing what you do want. But there is a time, and all of you have to decide when it is for you, that you're willing to say, all right, I've poked around at this problem significantly enough to create a really good solution. Now I think I'll tune myself to the solution rather than to the problem. And the answer to when that is simply this. How much discomfort am I willing to endure before I let go of the problem and let the solution show itself to me? Really, that's the only thing that makes the difference. Now, of course, most people, Esther included, who is standing in the attitude of poking around at the problem, immediately feels the discord of being a vibrational match to the problem rather than to the solution. And then something interesting kicks in for most of you. Because you now don't feel good, it feels like you should explain why you don't feel good and how bad it is that you don't feel good and whose fault it is that you don't feel good. In other words, you begin to justify your discordant relationship with who you are by hammering longer at what's wrong with this. Esther, over the years, has said things to us such as, well, it's true, as if that is any kind of criteria to use. In other words, it's true, this thing I'm using to make myself miserable and keep myself from the solution that I have already created. And we say, no one is questioning the truth of these things because you can't focus upon anything for very long without making it true. That's a terrible criteria. It's true. It's true. And so I focus on it. We say, cancer's true. Do you want some? Plundering, rapes, murder, all true. You want some of that? If you focus upon those things just because they are true, you open yourself to all kinds of things unwanted as well as wanted. We think a different criteria is in order. So rather than saying it's true, why not ask yourself, how does it feel? How does it feel? Because sometimes you can poke around on what you consider to be a problem and it feels interesting. And we want to say to you, we've never said it to you before, that if you are poking in the direction of what feels like a problem and it feels interesting, you're still in the vortex. In other words, if it still feels interesting, you are not separating yourself from who you are. You're working the contrast in a productive way from inside the vortex, because in every particle of the universe, even where we stand in non-physical, there is wanted and unwanted. The difference between where we stand is that the differentiation between our wanted and our unwanted is so slight you could not from your physical platform even perceive it. And we want you to understand that this vortex of creation is where it's at, because it is where the vibrational version of you is. It's who you have become. And if you're not up to speed with it, even a little bit not up to speed with it, you're going to feel the diminishment of not being up to speed with it. So if you're really not up to speed with it, you feel despair. You feel powerless. If you're less not up to speed with it, how's that for a tricky way of saying it? As you're closer to the vortex, feeling some anger, you're offering less resistance, more allowance. If you're overwhelmed, you're offering less resistance than you were, but still a pretty good wad of resistance. Frustration, pretty good wad of resistance. If you're feeling hopeful, there's not much resistance in your vibration at all. And when you feel hopeful on a pretty regular basis, the vortex will take you in, because you're close enough to cooperative that in you go. And once you're in the vortex, once you are in there, now you will have the full view of in the vortex. Now you'll be aware of things. Things will begin occurring to you. In other words, that hope turns to belief very, very quickly as you are in the vortex. And that belief turns to knowing very, very quickly once you're in the vortex, till you reach the place where you understand that you are creator, and that there is nothing that you cannot be or do or have. And that everything that is occurring in your experience is by your choice and by your choice alone. And so we are just suggesting that if you will make the way you feel a high, in fact, the highest, in fact, the singular priority, how I feel, nothing is more important than that I feel good. Because nothing is more important than that I be in the vortex. Because nothing is more important than that I be a cooperative component to who I have become. Because when I'm not a cooperative component to who I have become, I'm not who I have become. In other words, doesn't that make perfect sense to you? You are creators. You didn't come to fix a broken world. It isn't broken. You came to explore it and to expand it. You came as eternal consciousness. So we want you to understand that as source energy, as we see you here in your physical experience, and you are giving birth to all kinds of new rockets of desires, we embrace those rockets and we hold steadily to the new place that you have carved out. We have access to the benefit that you provide. And then we stand as that steady signal so that you can find your way into alignment with it. Sometimes people say, so you're using us, eh? We're here doing all of this sifting and sorting. Sometimes they say, well, Abraham, why don't you come and be physical? Why don't you come and be physical? And we so want you to understand that that which you are is that which we are, and that which we are is that which you are. In other words, there is not a separation between us other than the temporary separation that you provide when you stand in negative emotion. In other words, it's all by your choice of thought that you hold yourself far too long outside the vortex. So, we are eager to talk with you about anything that is important to you. We're going to offer everything that we can offer to coax you in the direction of your vortex. We stand in complete, never-ending appreciation for wherever you are standing, because we reap the benefit of everything you ask for. So some might say we do have the better end of this stick because we stand in the place getting to receive the benefit of all of your sifting and sorting and expanding. But we want you to understand that this vibrational place where we stand, this place of love always, this place of constant knowing and appreciation, this place of riding the fastest wave into the new realm of expansion, it's there for you too. In other words, you get to ride these rockets. When you feel elation, when you feel shivers running through you, what you're actually feeling is what we're feeling. We just want you to tune yourself to that more. We want you to experience the joy of the life that you have carved out.